Morning, everyone out there in the World Wide Web. Welcome to Travelbag Photography's 5 easy steps to improve your photography. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Step number 1, never use auto mode. If you have a good camera, like any DSLR or any mirrorless camera that's out there right now, and if you're using auto mode, it's like buying a minivan for 2 people. You might as well take 2/3 of it back to the car dealer and ask for a refund because you're not using it to the full extent that it should be used. So the way that you do that is you learn how your camera works. You learn how to use the camera that you bought. And the really easy way to do that is you learn 3 modes: manual mode, aperture priority, and shutter priority. Manual mode lets you adjust the aperture and the shutter of the camera. And in the Nikon and the Canon, you do that by adjusting the function dial to M. Okay, you can see the M on the right-hand side. Aperture priority is used to adjust the aperture or the opening size of the aperture of the lens that you are using. And in Nikon, it's very simple. Aperture priority is an A, and in Canon, it's an AV. Shutter priority lets you adjust the speed that the shutter is open. So once again, Nikon makes it pretty easy. So it's an S. However, Canon doesn't call shutter priority by its true name. It actually uses time value. So it's a TV. With these 3 modes, you can shoot almost anything that you need. Out of these 3, I only use 2 really. I use manual mode, which lets me adjust for both the aperture and the shutter at the same time. That's kind of my favorite one, and that's the one that I probably use the most. And aperture priority I use when I shoot all my wildlife, because really what I do is I use a very wide shutter or a very big one, which is a low setting, like f 2.8. So the big takeaway here is never use auto mode. Learn your camera, learn what they can do, and learn manual mode, and use aperture priority and shutter priority. Very simple. Always shoot in RAW. So if you're an amateur photographer or semi-pro or even a pro, you should be using a processor. So you should be processing, like the digital photography that you make. So raw files are like, digital negative of the old school. Where you had the black and white, negatives. So very simply, raw files pick up or have larger dynamic range and store more information for you, which allows the color and the texture for your pictures to be much more vibrant than they are when you use, JPEG. So I shot my neighbor's house from my back deck, and I shot it using JPEG and RAW files. And then I took them into Lightroom. That's the program that I use to process. And I clicked on the auto mode, just auto. So the JPEG on the left shows you what you capture when you shoot only using, JPEG. And then the shot at the right shows you what you capture when you shoot raw. So what you can see straight away is the green. Big colors with the green. So in low light, the raw file picks up much more color. Look at the color in the grass, look at the color in the trees. And then when you really get into it, look at the sky, look at the clouds. So raw, when you shoot raw allows you to see much more and to use much more of the photograph. Always shoot in raw. Use the rule of 2/3. Very simply, what the rule of 2/3 does is it splits your screen up into thirds. Thirds, vertically, and thirds horizontally. And when you do this, you can put your subject in accordance with those thirds. Studies of vision have shown that the human eye, is attracted to points in those thirds. I have no clue why, because I'm not a physician, or sorry, I'm not a scientist. So I don't know why this happens, but it does. So to help us out, most of the modern cameras out there have the rule of thirds built into their viewfinder. So what you do is you just find where the function knobs allow you to access the rule of thirds through your viewfinder, and then you go nuts. So when I shoot landscape, I always use the rule of thirds. But you can use the rule of thirds when you shoot, wildlife also. Here's an example here. So the shot on the left, very nice shot, monarch butterfly, blah, blah, blah. However, when you look at the shot on the right now is with the rule of thirds. So the eye is attracted to that photograph more than it is to the one on the left. And when you look at it, a story comes out, right? It's almost like, okay, where is that butterfly, and where's he wanting to fly to? What's in front of the camera? What's he see that we don't see, and where's he going? And that's how the rule of thirds works. It's very cool. Step number 4, watch your background. So again, shooting from, my back deck, the shot on the left shows an unattractive background. Shows a great subject, right? But there's a concrete block, and there's something past the bird that is distracting to the viewer when they look at the photograph. Compare that to the one on the right, where you've got a nice green, shady background. The eye is not, distracted, so the eye can focus right onto the subject that you want the viewer to see. Now, sometimes it's not always easy, because sometimes we can't choose the background. So you just have to be aware when you shoot wildlife. Be aware of what the background is, and always opt for those shots that will give you the shot that you want. When you're not shooting wildlife, of course, you can choose the background, and that's where you want to go. Step number 5, vary your shot symmetry. Now this one is arguable, because this one can go against some people's tastes. Shot on the left is Kimmer Hindu, temple. It's about a half-hour drive from our house, and you can see how everything's lined up, how everything's not lined up quite, nicely. So the temple is in the center of the shot. and everything's wonderful. Now you look on the shot on the right, and it's not quite, symmetrical. The camera angle has changed to show us what we call asymmetry. So some people, most people prefer that. Um, Symmetrical shots have their place, but certainly if you're going for character shots or or character photos that have character, the shot on the right is the one that you want. Okay, let's recap. 5 steps to improve your photography. Number 1, never use auto. Never, never, never. Learn the 3. Learn manual, learn shutter priority, and learn aperture priority. And again, of those 3, I only use 2. Always shoot in RAW. If you're not shooting in RAW, then you're just not capturing the best images that you can. And even if you're not at that level that you're processing photos now, you go to your camera and choose the mode that captures both, that captures RAW and JPEG, because at some point further down the road, you may get into photo processing in programs like Lightroom and Photoshop. And if you capture those images now using RAW files, you have something to go back to. Trust me, that's exactly what I did. And boy, am I ever glad that I did. Step number 3, use the rule of thirds. And if there's anything that you can remember from this webinar, see step 3, and I've aligned step 3 with the rule of thirds. So if you remember 3, remember thirds, and you remember one of the 3 steps. Watch your background. So annoying to shoot a great photo, and boom, once you get home and you have a look and the adrenaline wears off and you got a crappy background, or worst case scenario, somebody's photo bombed your shot of the pool, you're not happy. Vary your symmetry. So this one, like I said, it works. Just change your camera angle slightly and you will have great results. So let's look at some of those great results. So that's it for 5 easy steps to improve your photography by Travelbag Photography. If you've got any questions, any comments, questions, you want things clarified, please feel free to email me at info@travelbagphotography.com. Make sure you check me out on the YouTube channel. There's a couple of videos there for you to watch. And thank you. Thank you for your time. And happy photographing.